Today, Colonel Nalin Herath is going to mark another milestone in his journey of literature by launching his second book, Story of the World, Geopolitical Alliances and Rivalries Set in Stone. This book is an in-depth examination of the New World Order in the context of current geopolitical development, particularly the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. It is a compilation of a systematic and comprehensive overview of the world affairs, which is rare find in today's educational publishing culture. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, with all gratitude and best wishes, in 2022, let me extend a very warm welcome to the chief guest of the event, Honorable Premita Bandara Tennakon, State Minister of Defense, Guest of the Honor, General Kamal Gunaratne, Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, General Shavendra Silva, the Chief of Defense Staff, and all distinguished guests who grace this most memorable occasion. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to have your presence at this book launching. Ladies and gentlemen, during the long march from war to peace, our brave children of great mothers made their supreme sacrifice in the lines of duty. The sacrifice they made have paid dividends in forms of peace, unity, harmony, and happiness to whole nation. We will never forget them. We are here today because they were there. Honorable Premita Bandara Tennakon, the State Minister of Defense, the Guest of Honor, General Kamal Gunaratne, Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, General Shavendra Silva, the Chief of Defense Staff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed privileged and honored to witness your presence for this glamorous event. We believe that your majestic presence is a different form of appreciation and an acceptance of the academic endeavors of scholars in the military like Colonel Nalin Herath. Honoring our request, sacrificing your valuable time and rest of the duties, the compromise that you made indeed is appreciated. Once again, on behalf of Colonel Nalin Herath, we welcome you all who present here for launching of the Story of the World.
He was formerly Director Bandaranaike Center for International Studies. Prior to his assignment at the BCIS, he was Assistant Professor of International Relations, St. Lawrence University, New York, from 2012 to 2016, where he focused on international relations, global cyber politics, and international security as subdisciplines and teaching. Dr. Vidanage graduated from University of Colombo, Sri Lanka with first-class honours for political science. He gained his PhD from the University of Edinburgh, United Kingdom in 2009. He was the Academic Director, Bandaranaike Center for International Studies, 2009 to 2011. His professional experiences include appointment as advisor, international affairs to the Sri Lankan President 2006 to 2010, and the role of consultant to the Sri Lanka Prime Minister during 2004 to 2005 on international affairs. Dr. Vidanage, through the experience of managing Sri Lanka's premier and most prestigious international studies think tank, the BCIS, has provided him linkages to both national and international civil society organizations. He has convened and organized policy conferences and consultations ranging from blue economy, health governance, global democracy, to developing specific programs on transitional justice, peace building. With that brief introduction, let's welcome on the stage Dr. Harinda Vidanagi to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you, Mr. Uh, Premta Bandarathen, uh, Secretary of Defense General Kamal of Defense Staff General Havendra Silva, all the distinguished guests, the author of the book, Nalin Herat. It's indeed a privilege, not because of I'm speaking just once. I've done so many keynotes, but I have never done two for one person. So this is on the back of 2017's first book launch, Globe in a Nutshell, and now Colonel Herat's second book. So I'm indeed in that way quite privileged. That's a distinct honor to do too. As I was talking with Nalin, I was wondering what I am going to speak because he has covered a massive gamut of knowledge, analysis in both his books. And then something struck me. The great historian Confucius, as well as the great philosopher, had some disciples, and there was the most ardent of his disciples was Zhigong. So Zhigong once invited him for a talk and a discussion, and he said, "Do you think you consider me a learned, well-read man?" And Zhigong said, "Of course, aren't you?" Then he said, "No, but I have grasped a thread that connects rest of things." So I'm also thinking international relations scholars like us, sometimes people expect a lot, but our capability sometimes is grasping certain threads. So I thought from the grasp I have to talk about something a bit different, but something which is very related to geopolitics and international relations. Because as students of geopolitics, as ardent security community here, you know, for a long time the term geopolitics was a pariah term. The West did not accept the term because the term was created by Rudolf Schellen, the Finnish scholar, philosopher, and it was deployed by Hitler. The idea was for Nazi Germany to advance. So for a long time, nobody liked the term geopolitics, but now it's very much back. There are so many dimensions of geopolitics. There is geoeconomics, geotechnology, geo-resource analysis. I thought to highlight a small but a very important geopolitical dimension that's emerging by first telling you a couple of stories about a few individuals. My mind goes back to a conference of technologists who met in 1958 of December in California. Very young people, some were migrants. So there was Gordon Moore. Gordon Moore was the guy who went on to find Fairchild Electronics, later went on to create Intel, the world's largest chip maker. Intel, we have Intel inside all our machines. Then Morris Chang, a Chinese, Hong Kong, Chinese, Taiwanese immigrant who came to the US, who went on to later find TSMC, the world's largest semiconductor foundry now in Taiwan. The reason nobody is fighting in Taiwan is not because of anything else, because of his company. So I'll come to that. And there was Dick Kirby, who was the mastermind behind the creation of the integrated circuit we call the IC, which is now we call chips, which run everything we use. And then there was Wendell Woodward, the guy who found or created the laser-guided munition, precision munition. Towards, very unfortunate for the Americans, towards the end of the Vietnam War, because they were trying to bomb the Vietnamese bridge for 7 years. Over 8,000 bombs were dropped, nothing hit the bridge. But this guy designed the laser-guided device. So what we call applying of microelectronics to ordnance. And his device later won the Gulf War for the Americas, because that is the birth of the precision weapon. So all these people met in 1958, had a good drink, went home singing in the snow. These were the people who changed the world today. Not because they changed the world today, not because they're American, I'm telling you the story. The world they changed And the technologies they created are actually the 21st century's battleground. The 21st century is, somebody asks you, what is the geopolitical tension? We are quite used to saying certain things like the Indo-Pacific, right, the Belt and Road. Yes, they are immediately. Or even the Atlantic Ocean coming up in 20 years. But actually, the 21st century revolves around what we call critical technology. Critical technologies is everything that goes into creating technology smarter, from making our phones smarter to making the weapons, missiles more accurate. All of these things are possible because of one thing, one element, that is the chip. So, ladies and gentlemen, my little talk is about geopolitics of semiconductors, or now the term is the so called chip war. The supremacy that countries fight now is not for oil, it is there. It's not for dominance of other things, but it dominance of who can advance and maintain that technological edge. Technological edges can be maintained by creating the smarter, more powerful chip. The interesting thing is, these were created by these gentlemen I talked to you about, and they also flourished because of the defense industry. In 1960s, none of these guys had a proper job. The businesses were small. Luckily for them, the US government had two projects. One is called the Apollo 11 project. Rest of the world know the project because it's the one that put people into space, into moon. Everybody knows Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong. But what people don't know is, because of the Apollo 11 project, Fairchild Company got the order to make chips. So that advanced the chip industry. Number two, the Americans wanted a very accurate intercontinental ballistic missile, and they devised something called Minuteman II missile system, which is still there. And for the guidance, they needed chips. And then the Texas Instruments Company, which Nozick found, supplied the chips. That's how the story of the chips began. Then they realized everything in the world, every technological apparatus, if it's going to be smart, if it can do calculations, you needed chips. That's why one of the owners of that company, Gordon Moore, said, looking at the chip, the first chip he saw was made of two transistors. He said, the two will be four next time. Four will be six, eight. And there you get the term that we all use, the Moore's law. Moore's law is nothing in physics. It is observation. Right? And he was proven right. And actually computing power kept on advancing because people could squeeze in more transistors into a chip. And that capability now has advanced into creating what we call the most advanced chip manufacturers in the world. And the most largest and the most advanced chip manufacturer in the world is in Taiwan, TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Machinery Company. That accounts for 40% of the world's chips. That is why during COVID time, there was a shortage of phones to cars because chips were in short supply. Right? And that's one company. But their technology is to make. The software is American, one company. The machine that they use to design it, lithography machines made in Netherlands, one company. The chemicals that come to make that comes from Japan, one company. And the only other country that has similar technology is South Korea. That is only for memory chips, that's Samsung. So between these five countries, that is how Huawei was hit by the Americans. Because Huawei was developing chips, developing capabilities, but the Americans imposed a ban. Starting what we call this round of discussions that I'm having, the geopolitics of technology, war of tech. What did the Americans did? So, because TMC was also producing chips for Huawei. He said, don't produce. Americans can bring it out because it was American software. And the Americans told the Dutch, you have the machine, but we have the software. You can't do it. That's how, in 2019, the second largest phone maker in the world now is insignificant. Huawei is a large company, but not anymore. phones. So this level of battles that you're going to see coming is called the so-called chip war. So from a Sri Lankan perspective, this is something we have not even thought about. The, the devices that will change our lives now and in the future is all based on this computing power. It is based on one technology. And the war actually in the world is for that. Let me explain a little bit more because I have a few more minutes. To, to understand the importance of this, just I will give you figures from China. In 2017, China's expenditure on buying chips was 260 billion US dollars. That is much more than what they spend for oil, gas. That is what much more than all the value of all the cars BMW sold that year, all the oil Saudi Arabia sold to the rest of the world. From 2017 onwards, now China's number one expenditure is for chips. That is why Xi Jinping president said China has now gone made in China 2025. $100 billion investment to see if China can do it at home. Because they feel that is one area the Americans will have challenged them. The Americans are also trying to create foundries, chip manufacturing at home. You know, it's 700 billion USD. Americans still struggle because they say it's not enough money to build a foundry in the US. The aircraft carrier costs $15 billion. Foundry costs $100 billion. The Americans don't have the money. So even the Americans are pushing for ways of finding that. So this is the new world order. And when people talk to me about Taiwan Straits, US, China fighting, I'm saying the peace is kept by TSMC, not by the Taiwanese government. No country wants a war in Taiwan, and no country wants to bomb the factory because it will take world's production of chips by 10 years back. That is an economic, financial, industrial catastrophe that will push humanity back so many years. That is why there is no war in the Taiwan. The Taiwan president calls this the silicon shield that is protecting Taiwan. Of course, Taiwan, there is, you never know, but this is one reason. The second point I want to make before I wrap up, it's my small presentation or speech today, is that one disadvantage I told you is Americans have. That is why they are pushing countries, and that is why they are pushing countries like China, and that is why there's a worry. But there's another disadvantage, and this advantage that China has, we don't know. I told you one side of the chip story. The other side of the chip story is the what you call the critical minerals you need to create chips. And who has that? So this war is twofold. One is for the tech, one is for the minerals. Minerals are what is driving 21st century. Nickel, cadmium, cobalt. These are everything that is needed to power from batteries in EVs to batteries in our phones. China processes 80% of world's EV batteries. United States, less than 10. In the human history, we need copper so much because of the energy. We have harvested 700 million tons of copper for the last 5,000 years. That is a gross estimate. They say in the next 22 years, for us to transition with the technology we have for countries with the emerging technologies, we need that that same amount is needed in the next 22 years. So there's going to be a mineral war that is going to come. Mineral power struggle. That is why countries are looking at every mineral deposit in the world. It can work for us also. This is where we have been talking about using Sri Lanka's location for our advantage, but there are other strategic aspects that we have to understand that's going to happen. 30% of the world's nickel is in Indonesia. 70% of the cobalt is in Congo. That is why you have a massive drive of geopolitical forces in Africa, especially in the Congolese region. Because these are the things that's going to drive future geopolitical. Because these are all critical technologies of the 21st. From the chips to the minerals. Lithium. The world's lithium largest processor is China. and the Americans are terrified about it. China processes 80% of world's lithium because lithium is in all our devices. So that is why I'm making this an occasion to bring this out, this conversation out, because in the future, it's not just military. Military, civil, dual-use technologies will rely more and more on semiconductor. Everything, because the moment we say smart, it means processing power, and there's a major battle emerging for the control of those supply lines, building of that, and even espionage, spying, and attacks. Because wars can be won only on those things. Even at the moment that you said Russia-Ukraine war, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to go into that. 90% of the Russian ordnance still lack the chips. That's why they say it's still not a war of accuracy. Of course, the Russians are still a very good military force. That's why they are going into pure attrition warfare. That's a different context. But this is a crucial thing that is going to. As a country which is very conscious of our neighborhood, which is very conscious of our geopolitical challenges, we also should think of things we never thought of for the future. Because minerals and energy will drive our needs as well and will drive our future. So I thought, rather than going on a very serious academic thing, I just want to illuminate that how few people, young people, industries that started in the Silicon Valley, they would have never dreamt they are creating technologies that's going to shape the 21st. And the conflicts that's going to come will revolve around that. So I just thought it's an occasion as an academic, and it's a good occasion to talk about it because it's a book is on geopolitics. So I'm again grateful to Colonel Nalin Herath for trusting me the second time to come and speak on a book that is so significant. Let me end with that line. I want to connect my talk with the book. There are many books. There are many, knowledge is abundant. What Sri Lankans lack is strategic thinking. What Colonel Nalin is trying to do, even at this level, is to create that particular perspective. Knowledge is not sufficient if knowledge is not strategically provided. That is why in Sri Lanka we have very intelligent people. But do we have strategically thinking young people? Do people even know how to place a technology with strategy? Just having a weapon or knowledge is not strategy. How do you strategically apply it is the thing. Countries that have gone forward are not with knowledge, purely only with knowledge, with strategic thinking. Even militaries in the world, from youngest level, from the lowest ranks to their middle ranking officers to in the high command, you need strategic thinking. To have strategic thinking, you need to know something about the world. So I think, Nalin, that's the service you are rendered. So I think I wish you all the best, and I wish the best for the people who read it and for the country, because that is the knowledge plus the strategic thinking we need. And thank you for giving me opportunity to speak about something different as well. It is so much geopolitically sensitive and important. And I think when you go home, you might think of this again. Right? Nobody, even everybody thinks of oil and all these things. Nobody would ever think most money spent on buying stuff is not on oil, energy, or weapons. It's just chips. So that is a thought I should think everybody should take away. So thank you again for having me here. I wish you all the best, and thank you for.
Basically, the world war is in a war. It's two types of wars. One is the war of tech, the other is the war of chips. So, what he brought us here is the story of the chips, or the chip story, and the world. The next war is on the minerals and the semiconductors. Anyway, the Taiwan is in a silicon shield, as he brings. Anyway, whenever Dr. Harinder speaks, he makes us amazed through the very rich content and also the exceptionally beautiful delivery. Rather than, like, while you were talking about the chips, Dr. Harendra, I was thinking whether Dr. Harendra has a chip in his mind or the head to remember all this because without looking slightest glance on a paper or anything, he talks anytime of any subject, and it's unstoppable. Luckily or unluckily, Colonel Nalin had given him a time frame. Otherwise, he would have given us a great wealth of knowledge, amazing as furthermore. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big another round of applause for this wonderful delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, the music is a universal language. Despite we understand the language or not, the 7 notes can make you feel happy, sad, romantic, energetic, nostalgic, and thus do wonders. To break the ice, let's get entertained with a unique piece of saxophone music. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Chandana Veerasinghe with a big round of applause on the stage.
The author and review of the book. Brigadier Sri Mudan Naik is a graduate of the Defence Services Command and Staff College Bangladesh and Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies in Hawaii, USA. Upon leaving the Army, he worked for the US Department of Defense as the Security Cooperation Program Manager for Sri Lanka and Maldives. He is now a freelance writer and has documented the history of 4th Armored Regiment. With that brief introduction, let's welcome on the stage Brigadier Sri Mudan Naik to express his valuable thoughts about the author and the book.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for that introduction. It's comfortable to come after that beautiful melody, saxophone, I Will Always Love You, from the movie Titanic, sung by Celine Dion, and the two actors were Kate Winslet, I forget the name of the man. Beautiful movie. And saxophonist, thank you very much. You did an excellent job. Honorable Premita Bandara Tennakon, State Minister of Defense, Secretary Ministry of Defense, General Kamal Gunratna, Chief of Defense Staff, General Shavendra Silva. I guess the gentleman sitting left of you, I didn't know, is it the Commandant of the Special Task Force? Sorry? Okay. Sorry, I didn't know that you were coming, sir. Officers, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure and honor to have been invited by Colonel Nalin Herath to speak a few words about the book and the author himself. But the second book he has launched is a big one, unlike the previous one. I was here when he launched the previous one, I think 6 years back. Nalin, in March 2017. Nalin is nodding, so I am not making a mistake. So, I am deeply honored and privileged to talk about you as well as your product. But I have been allocated 10 minutes only. To do a book review of a product of this magnitude is simply impossible in 10 minutes. I got Nalin's PDF copy of the book just 48 hours back. I didn't have time to read it either. I am a slow reader. Nalin, it will take about a month and a half for me to go through your product. Perhaps I will email you when I have some confirm. Right. Going back to 27, Nalin launched the first book, Geopolitics, once again. Globe in a Nutshell was the title of the book. And there was a subtitle, Shapes and of Geopolitics. Geopolitics, Shapes and Shapes of Geopolitics. I forget the title. Now that was a small book. When I say small, it still had about 700 pages. And Nalin has done an excellent job. Nalin started writing that book when he was serving in the United Nations in the Western Sahara. But he continued after he came back, and amidst all the challenges, the duties that he has to perform in the army and elsewhere, he had that product out by March 27. Excellent book. That book, if I may mention a few words, is a compilation of data from all reliable sources, which will be very useful for students studying for Captain and Major exams, Staff College selection exams, so on and so forth. Now, I think I am running, I have to do a fast forward now, finish in 10 minutes. So, the second book that he is unveiling today is Story of the World. Geopolitics, rivalries, and alliances, set on a stone. Now, I have to get this cleared a little later, some in future, why this set of stone word has been pushed in. But I'll ask you, send you an email why this set of stone word has been pushed in there. But you know, you are a smart man. I know you have had reasons. It is customary in these kind of events to speak a few words about the author, and I'm going to do that 2 or 3 minutes. Nalin hails from Matale. He studied, I see Chief of Defense Staff nodding. These Matale products are brilliant officers. I think we have the Army Commander who is also from Vijay College. Nalin studied at Veera Parakrama Bahu Mahavidyalaya in Yatavat. From there, he went for his secondary education to Vijay College. In 1994, he was selected to enter the Peradeniya University to follow an arts degree. But Nalin being Nalin, 94 the war was raging. Sri Lanka virtually had lost 2/3 of its coastline to the LTT sea tigers and 1/3 of the landmass. So Nalin decided, rather than going to that hellhole in Peradeniya, which always creates trouble, that he should join the army to resolve a troublesome problem. Well done, Nalin. You're a patriot. So, Nalin, in the meantime, has acquired number of academic degrees. Masters in strategic defense management, human resource, international humanitarian law, and many subjects coming under the International Committee of the Red Cross. So this is not an easy task. This man is, I would say, he's a genius. Very few people have the patience to do this kind of thing. And now, short talk. Nalin, in his first book, mentions a couple of names about foreign military officers who served with him in the Western Sahara, the United Nations mission, peacekeeping mission. And there was one major from the Polish army, Major Piotr Klimek, says these words, and I quote, Lieutenant Colonel Nalin Herat was serving with the military observer mission for many nations and provided valuable advice at critical moments. Great, Nalin. At critical times, using his military experience in the Sri Lanka army. So this is what a Polish major is saying, who was serving alongside him at the peacekeeping mission. And finally, the best striking praise he has received is from Major General Rashid Amin, Armored Corps officer of the Bangladesh Army, an outstanding general of the Bangladesh Armored Corps, who is currently the senior directing staff at the Bangladesh National Defense College. Now, he has been the officer in charge of a course when Nalin attended the Army Officer Basic Course in Bangladesh many years back. And General Amin says these words, I found him sober, punctual, smart, intelligent in all cases, and social active. Nothing surprising, Nalin. That's the Armored Corps. And these words coming from the Armored Corps is no surprise. Armored Corps is the smartest, the elite unit in the Sri Lanka Army. The best of the best in the Sri Lanka Army goes into the Armored Corps. No question about it. Look at this mess. Does any other army regiment has a mess like this? The officers' mess? This is the Armored Corps mess. And I am proud to be a retired officer of the Armored Corps. I know. CNI is not very happy. CLI. But CLI is a great unit. Fine infantry unit. So is the Gadaba Regiment. We have a Chief of Defense Staff. We have a Secretary of Defense. We have a Commander of the Army from the Gadaba Regiment. That great man, late General Vijay Vimalratna's creation. I respect him a lot. He was my instructor when I was a cadet in the officer cadet school. It was not called the military academy, but the officer cadet school. Great man. We miss him. Along with late General Densil Lakshman Kobekadu, who had a tragic end driving over a landmine, Jaffna. And Major General Amin goes on to say these words, and I quote, "After almost 22 years, I am happy to see one of my students reach the pinnacle of successful writing." And this is a two-star general telling about a colonel. So we have to take this word seriously. Nalin, I don't think you can have any more better accolades other than from Major Kirmek and General Amin has said. Well done. You brought great credit to the Armored Corps, but above that, you have brought great credit upon yourself. Keep going, keep writing. One request, please encourage the younger generation of the Armored Corps officers who are reluctant to put their thoughts into paper to write. Teach them. You are a teacher. I know you are an instructor in many private institutions. I don't know why this reluctance to write exists. The only person who has written a book is General Ranatunga, who wrote his memoir titled Adventurous Journey, Peace to War, Insurgency to Terrorism. If my memory serves right, he is the only one who has written a book. I wrote a book about the history of the 4th Regiment, but I didn't put it out into the public domain because it carried some sensitive arguments about why we bought those battle tanks, the T-55 from Czechoslovakia. So I prefer to keep it under wraps. So Nalin, I wish you all the very best in your future endeavors as a writer. I wish you a professionally rewarding and personally enjoyable career in the Sri Lanka Army. Thank you.
Now I respectfully invite to the Ms. Rajiv Gunasena, the Managing Director MD Gunasena Company Limited, to deliver the remarks by the publisher.
Guests, friends, and members of my team. Abraham Lincoln once said, "It is better to be silent and thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt." As a principle, I try and adhere to these words and hardly speak at public gatherings. However, upon a humble request to speak a few words at the launch of the book, The Story of the World by Colonel Nalin Herath, I shall risk being doomed a fool. But I promise you to keep it short and worth your while. As you know, MD Gunasena is a company synonymous with education. Ever since its inception in 1913, 110 years later, we have been in the forefront of publishing, printing, and bookselling. Sovereign in ownership and true to its founding ethos, we hold ourselves accountable to one principle: the advancement of human thought. Our slogan, "We taught the nation to read," is undisputed, and education has always been at heart. As you're aware, we live in unprecedented times. Our country is facing monumental economic crisis, and our people governed by an immoral leadership, which has affected every stratum of our population with no hope in sight. It is in times like this, with looming uncertainty, that we must all forge ahead. We must all play a pivotal role to save our nation. We believe it is only through reading and books that we could liberate this country from its present predicament. It is time for all of you to do some soul searching, to find that latent author within you. I'm sure you have all the creative spark in you, that patriotic love for our country, to dig deep within you, to find that J.K. Rowling, Agatha Christie, Ernest Hemingway, Tolkien, Martin Wickramasinghe, Kumaratunga Munidasa, and Colonel Nalin Herath. We invite you to be that author, the catalyst for yet another book. Come, publish with us. Together, let us be the beacons of light, to inculcate the love for reading, through which we can educate, motivate, inspire our people to drive change in the promise of a future we all deserve to live. Together, let us put more books in the hands of our people so that they can enjoy the true sense of liberty. From this noble endeavor, let us try to heal the soul of Sri Lanka. We all have creativity within us, a latent power to be the best we could. However, it is primarily fear of rejection that holds us back from growing to our full potential. Overcome that fear. Forget what others think. Accept our invitation and join Colonel Nalin Herath. In closing, I like to use a quote. Sing like no one is listening. Love like you've never been hurt. Dance like no one is watching. And live like it is heaven on earth. And lastly, continue to write like no one is reading or no one cares. Thank you. May God bless you all.
The most awaited, auspicious moment and the pinnacle of this glamorous evening, the launching of the story of the world, geopolitical alliances and rivalries set in stone. To mark the ceremonial launch, Mr. Ranjiv Gunasena and Colonel Nalin Herath will now hand over the first copy of the book.
The Chief Guest, State Minister of Defense, Honorable Pramita Bandar Ennakon, eminent keynote speaker for the event, Dr. Harinda Vitanage, Chief of Defense Staff, Vice Chancellor of KDU, Brigadier Sri Mudanayaka, who was my chief instructor, and I was an officer cadet, additional secretaries and all senior civilian and military officials of the Ministry of Defense, eminent scholars of universities, and other outside organizations, defense advisors and attaches of friendly foreign countries, senior retired and serving officers of the tri-services and police, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me extend my heartfelt gratitude to the author, Colonel Nalin Herath, for allowing me with this opportunity to be the guest of honor of this special occasion to launch his book titled Story of the World, Geopolitical Alliances and Rivalries Set in Stone. In fact, I consider it as a great opportunity bestowed upon me to be at this launch in front of such an earnest gathering, as I find the subject which has been dwelled upon by the author in this book as a subject of great interest for me personally. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that all of you would agree with me if I state that in the current context, the term geopolitics is a frequently used phrase. It can be heard on media, in academic discussions, political platforms, and has now more or less become an alternative expression for international strategic alliances and rivalry. Essentially, in this background, states all around the globe seek a favorable environment for the projection of their military forces, political influence, cultural values, and economic opportunity. Geopolitics therefore focuses on how countries try to reach their political goals by controlling geographic features of the world and the structure of alliances. In this context, ladies and gentlemen, the Indian Ocean region has become an economic and political center of gravity in the Indo-Pacific paradigm. The geopolitics of the region has increased the importance of its small island states, such as Sri Lanka, our motherland. Powers such as United States, China, and many others are increasingly trying to make a significant presence in this region. India is a basic element of the entire Indo-Pacific discourse and Indian Ocean region, and therefore it has the greatest stakes in the region. US presence in the Indian Ocean through Quad is consequently at large, while the strategy of China makes it economic engagements as a major power projection, given its growing role in the Indian Ocean region. At such a backdrop, as the nuclear weapons capability of a country being a significant factor in power projection, we must not forget that in the regional perspectives, three neighboring countries who possess nuclear capability in Asia are sharing their borders, which makes this region more volatile in terms of power projection. Ladies and gentlemen, in the context of a national security perspective of a nation, threats that were part of a historical setting, which were a function of the geopolitical environment of a country, are now also influenced by the changing dynamics in the contemporary security environment. Today, the world we live in is not the same world, and threats are not the same threats that shaped national security in the past. As a result, and most importantly, sovereignty of a state, which earlier mentioned national security, does not have the same meaning. Therefore, the deliberation and study on geopolitics are identified as of a paramount importance by scholars all around the world, as a nation's destiny will be someday decided on the bedrock of such alliances and rivalries in the geopolitical arena. Circumstances are as such. Sri Lanka pursues a non-aligned policy and maintains a friendship with all countries and adopts a balanced foreign policy for healthy international relations with all regional and global entities. However, as explained earlier, geopolitical context and its inherent constraints will have a decisive bearing on Sri Lanka's national security and internal and external threats faced by the country. In that, as a study of this field, there is a significant importance to us as a country. The efforts endured by Colonel Nalin Herath in publishing this book after a comprehensive study in this field is truly to be admired and identified as an exploitation of the knowledge and understanding fathomed by him in this field in an exemplary manner. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, to mention a few details regarding the author, who is very well known to me during my time in the army, is a renowned lecturer and a trainer in the subjects of leadership, motivation, social etiquettes, effective communication, and human resources management. He is a strong but humble personality who possesses an illustrious career, the Sri Lanka Army, who has rendered a great deal of service to our beloved motherland for 28 years in Sri Lanka Army's one of the most prestigious regiments, Sri Lanka Armored Corps. Presently, he renders an exemplary service to the Ministry of Defence as the Director Media of the Ministry, which inherently necessitates a great expanse of commitment, dedication, and precision, where he has mastered and demonstrated in all ways imaginable in his part. Ladies and gentlemen, being an author myself and also an officer who served in the Sri Lanka Army for 35 years and 5 days, I am delighted to witness that an officer still serving in the army has embarked upon contributing to the literary discipline of the world on a profound subject as geopolitics through his publication. As I have always believed, authoring entails a self-conscious examination of the subject at hand. Through authors' experiences and perspectives, both to interrogate and explore the subject properly in order to convert ideas into words to be fathomed by the future generations to come. Works of this nature can offer insights into understanding the complexities of geopolitics, helping us to learn lessons of importance in order to broaden our horizons of knowledge. Therefore, I am immensely delighted to witness that the book to be launched today has executed its mandate exceptionally well to serve all of the said purposes, where all the credits must go to the author, Nalin, for his tireless work and dedication towards completing it with the assistance of all who contributed towards its success. In fact, this is Nalin's second book in the discipline of geopolitics and international relations, where his first book being Globe in a Nutshell, Story of the World, Geopolitical Alliances and Rivalries Set in Stone. A sequel to his first book is a well-researched, comprehensive publication which moves through territorial boundaries, dramatically highlighting the connections between places and politics. In this book, Nalin illustrates several major geopolitical developments across continents on different geopolitical issues and its alliances. Profoundly written, giving due consideration to the timeline, the historical dilemmas explained in the book, which paved the way toward existing geopolitical issues, provide an all-inclusive context for the reader. He has done an all-round analysis on every aspect of the geopolitical context, including South Asian geopolitics, which affects Sri Lanka, Indo-Pakistan relations, China's involvement in Asia, China-USA relations, Belt and Road Initiative, European Union and Brexit and future, and the Arab Spring, and a critical analysis on Ukraine-Russian conflict. Opening with the rudimentary analysis of geopolitics, it is my belief that Nalin has critically explored the topic, where he has been able to bestow a marvel of a literary creation to all readers who are interested in the subject of geopolitics. All in all, as I admire the highly precise way this publication is compiled by the author, Colonel Nalin Herath, I wholeheartedly believe that he has unquestionably rendered a tremendous contribution to the literary field. Furthermore, the collective excellence of the publication, both in the exploitation of the depth of the subject and the way of analysis, speaks volumes of Nalin's exceptional ability in research skills, which should be truly admired by all of us present here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I wholeheartedly agree with the comments made by Brigadier Mudan Nayaka. Our youngsters should write more and more books with their experience. Since the day I launched my first book, Road to Nandi Kadal, I had been telling the youngsters who were serving with us or serving under us to pen down their noble experiences for the people of this country to know, and also for our future generation to know what their forefathers did in the name of the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of our beloved motherland. In fact, I still remember immediately after the war, a team of Air Force officers came to my residence to get a voice cut from me for one of their video recordings. There, I told them, okay, in my voice cut, I clearly mentioned about a God's chariot. I told the youngsters of the Air Force to write about that God's chariot. Ladies and gentlemen, that God chariot is the chariot which evacuated more than 20,000 wounded officers and soldiers from the battlefield to safer areas for treatment, the Kasivak helicopter. There are so many pilots who have seen the action by themselves, and they saw the wounded soldiers with the saline bottle in their hand. Saline is injected to their veins, but the bottle in hand, running and jumping into the Kasivak helicopter, or what I call the God's chariot, and tremendous experience. But ladies and gentlemen, the sad thing is they don't put it from pen to paper. So Air Force Chief of Staff is here, who was a Pukara pilot, is a fighter pilot converted to a transport pilot. So Udayani, I think you all should write about your side of story for our future generation to know exactly how you all contributed and the way our forces ensured the sovereignty and the territorial integrity for our motherland in order to allow our future generations to live in this country. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, let me have the utmost privilege of extending my heartfelt gratitude to Colonel Nalin Herath for his invitation extended for me to be part of this significant event, and let me wish him all the very best in all your future endeavors, including writing. You are an author, I am also an author, so we'll write more and more about very pertinent subjects in years to come. And definitely, Nalin, it will benefit our future generation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience hearing.
Chandana Veerasinghe on the stage with big rounds of applause once again. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now have the honor of inviting Honorable Pramita Bandara Tennakoon, State Minister of Defence, to share his thoughts.
Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, the Chief of Defense Staff, Dr. Harendra Vidana A, Brigadier Mudan Nayaka, and the Managing Director of MD Gunasena, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed privileged and honored to take part in this event, which is significant in multiple dimensions. I have always wondered which conquers the world best, the pen or the sword. Unlike the sword, the pen can hurt someone without bleeding. It can kill someone without killing. And also, the pen can do something that the sword cannot. That is to build a person, a country, or a nation. That is the unmatched worth of the pen. Today, what we witness is a soldier who has held a weapon in his hand, or to be more precise, led an armor tank in the battle, now wielding the unmatched power of the pen. I'm not surprised at all to see high academic caliber officers like Colonel Nalin Herath in the Sri Lanka military. Because ever since I took over office, I have witnessed the exceptionally high quality academic facet of our battle-hardened military officers. And it continues to amaze me. The strategic importance of Sri Lanka, due to its location in the Indian Ocean, is unparalleled. Alfred Hayaman said, and I quote, "He who controls the Indian Ocean will control the world." So it is vital for us to redefine our objectives as an island nation in the face of latest developments of global politics. And we must understand one important fact, that we are friends with the entire world and enemies of none. Looking at the world, I feel that there are many lessons that we have missed. Despite Vietnam and USA being tangled in a bloody war at a time, they are great trade partners today, with trade amounting to 113 billion US dollars only in 2021. Despite China being a communist country, in terms of political structure, they follow a market structure in terms of economy. Vietnam and China, while adopting new tailor-made strategies for economic, social, and political development, has smartly prevented the past dictating the future. Being a small country in the African region, Rwanda achieved 11% of GDP growth despite the pandemic in 2021. Given these eye-opening developments in the contemporary world, Colonel Nalin Herath has taken the pen through which he could shed light on the areas that we have to focus on. The military must continue to build an officer corps capable of meeting the demands of the modern environment. I always believe today's officer must be ready to work closely alongside governmental agencies, foreign militaries, governments, and non governmental organizations. This requires a refined understanding of international affairs and interorganizational coordination, and a commitment to seek innovative solutions to solve complex national and international problems. While today's military is well equipped with officers with such knowledge, skills, and attitude, it seems we are not yet ready to benefit from its best talent, as we have not devised a system in the military to make the best of their academic wealth. In the contemporary world order, knowledge is power. Hence, we should maneuver our education system to produce knowledge creators like Colonel Nalin Herath, rather than students, graduates who can only reproduce outdated information that they have by hearted. Across the globe, militaries have made great innovations, contributed to literature in various fields. Their commitment, expertise, and experience have been utilized in various fields like management and automobile industry. So in Sri Lanka, we are at a juncture where we have to think whether we have been able to utilize the knowledge and experience of the armed forces productively. This book has been written through the sheer dedication and personal interest of a single officer. So I'm very certain that if we could make out a system in which other capable officers are also encouraged to produce knowledge, making use of their expertise, the future of Sri Lanka will be bright. The national security of a country is not a mere military task, as many people opine. It is a combined effort of diplomacy, international relations, and various other facets. So the military today is not only an institution which focuses on the power of the weapon. The modern military should be broadened in multidimensional aspects, and I hope that this great academic endeavor of Colonel Nalin Herath will encourage other officers also to follow suit. Whilst expressing my heartfelt happiness at the launch of Colonel Nalin Herath's book, I also wish him luck and request young blood of the armed forces to strive to become officers of the caliber of the author. Thank you very much.
The pen can do wonders that the sword cannot do. We should not forget the cultural values and the root causes in the journey to the development. And the past should not dictate the present. That's the crux of your eloquent speech. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give another big round of applause for that exceptional speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I would like to cordially invite Colonel Nalin Herath, Director of the Media Center of the MOD, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Honorable Minister, State Minister of Defense, Member of Parliament Pramita Bandara Tennakon, Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, General Kamal Gunaratna, Chief of Defense Staff, General Shavan Silla sir, Director General, Civil Security Department, Chief National Intelligence, Dr. Harinda Vidanage, Brigadier Mudannayak sir, Acting Director General, Institute of National Security Studies, Mr. Rajiv Gunasena, along with other directors and his team, all additional secretaries, all senior assistant secretaries, family members, Mr. Raja Kanake, all over the way. You came from Canada today for this event. And my batchmates, my schoolmates, and ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And I'm honored to be in front of you, gathering like this. And today, I'm holding my challenging career in my military. And earlier, I had a challenging career when I was the military assistant to chief of staff in the Ministry of Morocco. And this was the second one. And I'm privileged to work under such a caliber, prominent gentlemen like General Kamal Gunratna and General Chavendra Silva, sir, my one-time school, my former all boy of Vijay College, Matale. And today, unfortunately, commander of the army, my senior private when I was schooling, he could not make the event because of because of a close relative death. And I think this is going to be my last book. I don't have any other plan to write any other. I know Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, he knows, and he has written more than 8 books. And I have written only 3 books, including the Sinhala version of Globe in a Nutshell and the Vishwatamata. And writing this kind of books, tell you frankly, very painful. And I get a lot of blasts from my home front also. And but it's very painful. But when it comes to because I know that I am writing for a purpose, as all speakers mentioned, my principle is that knowledge should be shared with the society. Until you share your knowledge with the society, there is no value. To teach somebody, you have to learn twice. That's my principle. And there is one officer from Singha Regiment who selected the staff college. One day he came to me and asked, "Sir, I am going to sit for the staff entrance exam, but I don't know current affairs. Can you do tuition for me?" Then I said, "Gentlemen, current affairs, there is no tuitions. You have to learn it." Then he is very close by my home because he is from Atubad. And then I asked, "Okay, when I am get free, you come to my home, but I am not going to do any tuition. You come to my home and I'll guide you how to learn current affairs." Then I started guiding him, and just after got his election results, and just after got his master's from the staff college, before calling his wife, he called me. And he said that, then first question I asked, "Did you call your wife?" Then he said, "No, sir, the first call I called you, you are the one." I said, so I know I can understand the pulses of especially military officers, their pulses, especially when they are sitting for the current affairs. It's like public speaking. The most feared thing is the public speaking, that's what I have learned. Then current affairs also say most of officers, they have the knowledge, but when it comes to the pen and paper, they don't put it, because you have 25 minutes for one question and you spend 1 hour for one question. Then you cannot complete 5 questions. That's the problem. And I am not going to take any more time of you. I know that's almost completed 2 hours. And I give my sincere thanks to State Minister of Defense, sir. And whenever we meet, you always talking about international relations, and I am happy to talk that. And my boss, General Kamal Gunran, sir, I am really privileged to work under him, and because he needs good results. So I almost completed 1 year and 2 months taking over these duties from Army headquarters. I was appointed by the Army headquarters. The moment I got the call from Military Secretary General Kolamatantri, I said, sir, please don't send me to Ministry of Defense. Please send me to Kukuleganga. Then he said, no, no, you can't go to Kukuleganga. Army command already approved. Then I called my colonel commandant, General Bothata. Sir, he promised me, okay, I will send you to Kukuleganga as the chief instructor. Then I called him because my immediate boss, sir, I have been appointed to Ministry of Defense. Sir, I can't go. Please send me to Kukuleganga. No, no, the commander of the army has approved. I can't change it. You better go. Then I went to my GOC, 6th Division. I was at Valioya. My GOC was General Gunasekar from artillery. Then I said, sir, MS called me. MS was his brother-in-law. What did he tell? Sir, I have been appointed to Ministry of Defense. What is the relationship between you and MS? Then I said, no, sir, he knows me and he called me and now I have been appointed, so I can't go. No, no, if MS call you, then you have to go. You hand over your duties to G1, go tomorrow. I thought that, okay, at least he would ask me, okay, stay another 2-3 days and you go. Then I met commander of the army and he gave his version. Then I met General Kamal Gunranda, sir, and he gave his version. Then I took the challenge. He asked 3 questions. All my answers were no. And he was thinking about 1 minute, like this. And after 1 minute, he just told me, okay, Buddha, you carry on. That's all he told me. So I took the challenge and I was working and I wanted to do something different. And I have a very good team. So I have 20 officers and 60 other ranks. So we work as a team and we wanted to do something new and innovations. And sir, I extend my warm thanks to you, sir, as the State Minister of Defense and General Kamal Gunranda, sir. And you are always supporting me and you are kind of inspiration for me and working under you. And for this one also, you always ask from me how the things are going and how the things are planning. So the encouragement, all the support, and military liaison officer, General Nanayakkara, and all military assistant, and all other officers, and my team, you did a wonderful job, wholeheartedly supported. I really admired that. And General Savendra Silva, sir, and I really admired your support, and Chief of National Intelligence, and all additional secretaries, and legal advisor. So I always wanted to work closely with them. So I never had a difference between military and civilian. This is how I won the heart of my force commander when I was in Morocco. I did not have staff codec. So military assistant to chief of staff is a staff qualified appointment. The category he post commander, because I was handpicked by the chief of staff from Guinea, then he gave he gave my name to the approval of the force command. He was Major General Imam Mehdi Mulyano, who has written the foreword of this book. He is the current Indonesian ambassador to Venezuela. Still we have communications. The reason he approved my name, because he had told, being a cavalry officer, he has been the brigade major. He has been the brigade major of infantry brigade, 2 infantry brigade. So it seems to be this guy is okay, you take him. So this is how I landed as the military assistant to chief of staff. Normally, UN observer can apply for 90 days leave per year. All my military observers, they took the 90 days leave. But I took only 14 days. So that kind of commitment I had. So I always wanted to keep Sri Lankan flag high. So I like to take challenges. And I am thanking all the additional secretaries and senior assistant secretaries and my colonel commandant, General Bodata, and center commandant, brigade commander, and especially my batchmate, Captain Kure. He We share most of the intellectual things. And Brigadier Mudannayaka, sir, so I really thankful for your presence here. And Dr. Harinda Vidanage, Chief of Staff of Air Force and Sri Lanka Army, and all other senior officers, and all my relatives, and all the other members, and all the representatives from the media units. I really thankful, and my classmates all over the way from, they came from Madale and Chandana Veerasinghe, and who really entertained us. He's also my classmate from Madale Vijay College. And I got a tremendous support from MD Gunasena and publishers, and Mr. Rajiv, again, he kept on trust on me, and this is not the time of publishing books, and this is not friendly environment for publishing big books, larger books, because of the economic situation. The prices of the papers are very high. But even though he wanted to take this project and his team, and I would have gone with other publishers, but I never forget my past. So I wanted to go with the same publisher. Even there were many invitation for the publication of e-copies. I said, no, I will go with MD Gunasena, because the image and your trust and the reputation you had in the society and the countries, because it's very high. And I'm thanking my media division team and wonderful support, and we work as a team. And especially even this InDesign and everything was designed by one of the leading aircraft craftsmen from Sri Lankan Air Force. And if the author is giving the InDesign format, let's work for the publisher. So I gave my copy on, I think, 8th, Mr. Raju. So within 2 days, they can publish, because we completed the InDesign format. So my guy did not, he didn't know what is InDesign. Then I trained him. Then he learned within 3 days. So then he performed the duty, and now he's very good in InDesign. And I give my fullest, sincerest thanks to Mess Manager, Sri Lanka Armored Corps Officers Mess, and if I don't mention, and Mr. Raja, and you change your flight schedule also, and you really wanted to come for this event, and thank you very much. And if I don't mention any other name, just it doesn't mean that I have forgotten. And especially I should give my thanks to my family, wife, and my 2 daughters. My elder daughter I have already given to the Sri Lanka Army, so she will be a future doctor. I don't know my younger one, how would she perform. Seems to be she will go to Air Force. And I don't know how the destiny permits, but I don't know. And my other friends, family friends, and my other counterparts, and all CEOs and retired officers. And thank you very much for being here. I truly debt you, and I am honored. And Secretary Defense requested me, again, I think, write, you continue, and so you are also working on another book now, and hopefully it will be published very soon. And after taking a break, I'll consider that again. And thank you very much for presence here. I know that this crowd is, කියනවා නම් දුකේදී සැපේදී හැමෝම ලේම ඉන්න කට්ටියක් කියලා තමයි I feel it. Wholeheartedly I feel it. And thank you very much, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you very much, sir. And you said no more writing of books, but again you said that you will be considering that. So we won't really want you to consider writing many more books, but being your subordinate staff within that 20 officers and the 60 ranks, we really pray for the God, no more book launches. So ladies and gentlemen, we are on the dot perfectly in the program, and you will agree with me that this evening is a very productive and a pleasant evening, entertaining and interesting, beautiful dances, and soothing music, very rich and eloquent speeches, and especially exceptionally mastering of the ceremonies by a beautiful captain of the Sri Lanka Army and a handsome wing commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force. Thank you very much. We have reached the culmination of the event. We warmly welcome you to enjoy the delicious refreshment in the rooftop. Have a great evening, everybody. It's a great evening to stay with you. I'm Wing Commander Chaminda Ranasinghe.
And I'm Captain Tushari Joseph.
Thank you very much.